For more on this, let's bring in our next guest, Newsmax insider Clarence McKee. Clarence is also the president of McKee Communications, and he served in the Reagan and Bush 41 administrations. Clarence, great to see you.
Hello, happy Friday.
Happy Friday indeed, at least for some of us, not for Brenda Snipes. Clarence, you worked in Broward County politics for a long time. Do you agree with Governor Scott that there is rampant voter fraud there?
I'm not going to use his language, rampant voter fraud, but if you remember Fats Domino's old song, and you're too young, about My Blue Heaven, Broward County is blue heaven. It's the bluest county in the state of Florida. Over 50% of the voters are Democrat, and Broward has a history of shenanigans. And Ms. Snipes, who's a great lady, has had a history of concern, so the governor's right to take a look at this. For example, why do you have 25,000 difference in who voted for the governor versus the Senate? Why do you have the down ballot offices of Chief Financial Officer, Commissioner of Agriculture, and Attorney General got more votes than the U.S. Senate race, which is a more high profile? So something is wrong. It's got to be looked at. And Broward County, you know, as they used to say, it's all going to be in Broward County. But they're right to take a look at it. Something's not right.
Yeah, Dr. Snipes has been sued for the 2016 election. She was accused of destroying actual paper ballots when she was required by law to hold on to those ballots, and that was in a primary contest for Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Yeah, Clarence, let's listen to what President Trump, he was asked about the situation in Broward County this morning before he got on Marine One to take off for France. This is what he had to say.
If you look at Broward County, they have had a horrible history. And if you look at the person, in this case a woman, involved, she has had a horrible history. And all of a sudden, they're finding votes out of nowhere. And Rick Scott, who won by, you know, it was close, but he won by a comfortable margin. Every couple of hours, it goes down a little bit.
Yeah,
right.
You know,
he's right.
They found a whole box of ballots at an elementary school. We just heard former Congressman Bob Barr talking about ballot security. Nobody was watching these ballots. They were sitting in a closet someplace, and somehow they miraculously showed up all of a sudden.
This is why, in these elections, Republicans have to have significant margins of victory. You can't come in here with these razor-thin margins because people can play games. They've got to be very decisive and get out their vote, even though they're outnumbered here. That is key, but something is going to be really discovered, I think. Broward County can't have this reputation. And it's not a very friendly county to Republicans. Chip LaMarca, for the last 8 years, was the only Republican on the county commission. He was never selected. He was passed over to become mayor. Why? Because he's a Republican. Now, thank heavens, he's going to the state legislature. There are now no Broward-based Republicans on the county commission. So this is a very solid Democrat county, and there are probably going to be problems. And I'm glad the governor is taking this step to keep people on their toes. It's unfair.
Not to mention the side effect here where people lose faith in the election process every time this happens. It's amazing anybody votes in Broward County in the first place.
You mean at least a Republican, right?
Yeah. You know, personally covering three elections, 2006, 2008, and 2010 in Palm Beach County. There were recounts in every single one of those years. A lot of times it doesn't make the national news because they're local elections, but there's problems down here. And a lot of times it comes down to just gross negligence and incompetence by some of these poll captains. All right, let's move on. One more question we're going to talk about. Oh, go ahead, Clarence. Sorry.
Okay, listen. We didn't have any hurricane in Broward County.
Right.
There was no hurricane in Palm Beach. Yet up in Bay County, that it was really attacked, I should say, clobbered by the hurricane. Power was out. Those ballots got in pretty much on time. So why can you get a hurricane-ravaged county like Bay doing their job right? A county like Broward, sunshiny day for voting, has all of these problems.
Again, it comes down a lot of times to the competency of the local supervisor of elections. Okay. All right, real quickly, Clarence, I want to ask you about the governor's race. Ron DeSantis and Andrew Gillum, they're now separated by less than 40,000 votes. It seems to be within the 0.5% margin that would trigger a recount. Do you see that happening here?
Yes. Yes. Now with all this attention focused on Florida, Gillum's going to take back his concession speech. The far left was not going to let this go by without a recount in the governor's race. I do think he'll pull it off, though, DeSantis.
Yeah, well, it's going to get ugly before we know the final outcome,
Clarence.
Clarence.
It's going to be horrible. Listen, she's been around a long time. She knows where the bodies are buried. She's given out a lot of money, and she has a lot of chits to pull in. As to these members who came in saying they were not going to vote for her, well, they have 2-year terms, right? She can pull them aside and say, listen, youngster, you want to get a good committee? Do you want to do this? What do you want? If you don't go for me, you're going to have a long 2 years. They can then say, I voted for Nancy. I know because I sat down with her and she assured me that she was going to do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
She's going to become speaker.
Right. Yeah. All right.
Plus,
According to
you never
Politico,
know if the president won't get her a few votes too.
he probably would be very happy about that. You heard him say it's her, she's earned this honor to be Speaker of the House. Now, according to Politico, quote, 10 Democratic incumbents or members-elect told them that they will vote against Nancy Pelosi for Speaker of the House. Congressman Fileman Vela, Texas Democrat, told CNN that there are at least 12 rock-solid no votes. How do you think this actually does play out? I know you gave us one scenario, but now we have people on the record. We know Tim Ryan, the Ohio Democrat, ran against her the last time around, but there was some sniping back and forth between Pelosi's communications director and Ryan's staff as well. Do you think this is just a bluff?
Hit by Ryan? No, he'll continue to be against her.
No, but for these 10 Democrats.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a bluff when they said it. They wanted to get elected. They got elected. Now, here's the point. They can give any excuse for going back on that and say to their constituents, she promised me that we're going to get something done on this, that there's going to be a new atmosphere. I don't think they want to go into the new Congress having a speaker against them. It's not going to be good for them or their constituents. So all that huffing and puffing, it's not going to blow the Pelosi House down at all.
And I'm interested in your point there that President Trump might actually do some things to back her up,
Exactly.
which he could do. Now, Clarence, let's switch gears real quick and talk about Bernie Sanders, our favorite Vermont senator, referencing Florida gubernatorial candidate Andrew Gillum. Here's what Sanders told the Daily Beast after Tuesday's election. Quoting Sanders here, there are a lot of white folks out there who are not necessarily racist who felt uncomfortable for the first time in their lives about whether or not they wanted to vote for an African American. Sanders, after making that remark, followed this up on NPR saying, quote, there's no question that in Georgia and Florida, racism has reared its ugly head, and you have candidates who ran against Gillum and ran against Stacey Abrams who were racist, and they were doing everything they could to try and play whites against blacks. Clarence, do you believe that racism is what prevented Abrams and Gillum from receiving these votes?
That's the trouble I have with some of these white liberals and socialists. Hey, where was he when all these white people who are now racist voted for Barack Obama in Florida? Where was he when the whites all over the country voted for Barack Obama twice? Are they all now racist because they don't like a Gillum? It's about policy. It's about his socialism that these candidates reflected that the people don't like. Another point. So I guess he's going to tell me that all the people out in Michigan who voted against John James over Stabenow, they're racist too? But then what about the white people in the party in Michigan who allowed and supported John James, who's black, to become the GOP nominee?
Good point.
Can't have it both ways.
Yeah,
I don't know why. They're like a cat caught under a tire.
For me, when it came down to Gillum, voting for Gillum, he's only been the mayor of a small city, Tallahassee. It's not a big place. And Florida's a much bigger place with a lot bigger problems. He's done a decent job in Tallahassee, but a little bit more experience, I think, in the governor's mansion.
It's his philosophy.
Well,
that's what people don't like. Yeah. They don't want to get higher taxes. They don't want to have a situation where vouchers for poor kids are ruined and gone. Yeah. That's why they voted against him. Bernie Sanders, take a walk.
All right, Clarence, great to see you. Thanks for your time today.